And joining me now is Congressman Fortenberry. Congressman, thanks for stopping by.
Good evening. Pleasure to talk to you.
All right. Now, as the co-chair of the Religious Minorities in the Middle East Caucus, you've introduced this security resolution, I believe, back in October of last year. October of 2018 also marks 10 years since the series of attacks on Christians in Mosul in Iraq back in 2008. So I do want to ask you about your efforts to bring that resolution to the table to protect Christians and other religious minorities. But first, your response to the news this week of this purported video showing ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi still alive.
Well, this is actually related to the purpose of the security resolution. ISIS is defeated. They have been really pressed back and are in a very difficult position, but they are not gone. One of the reasons that we have pressed forward for a security resolution in northern Iraq is that the beleaguered religious minorities who once made up an ancient, beautiful mosaic of pluralism in northern Iraq as well as in Baghdad, there was an attempt to exterminate them. There was a genocide against them by ISIS. And while ISIS has technically been defeated and back, the forces that are there, the environment that's still there, could allow for their regeneration. That's why part of this is so serious. So what we're trying to do is actually take the next step. We've shifted tremendous amounts of humanitarian aid to religious minorities, Christians and Yazidis. And by the way, there used to be over 1 million Christians in Iraq, and now there are perhaps about 200,000. There are 400,000 Yazidis trapped in refugee camps there who have no place to go. The situation is insecure in northern Iraq, so if our aid is to be sustainable, we need a new security footprint led by the Iraqis that integrates the religious minorities into regular Iraqi security forces so that they can take charge of their own security and keep away forces like ISIS. There's other reasons to do this, but ISIS is defeated. They have been put down. They are in shambles, but they are not completely gone.
Well, you mentioned, Congressman, that the population of Christians there in northern Iraq and Yazidis in northern Iraq, the populations have been depleted. But what is life like for them right now as they await more action and as they await this resolution, something as like this resolution coming from you?
Yes. Well, again, a number of very brave people, a lot of young people, have trickled back into these communities in northern Iraq, mostly around Mosul and the Nineveh Plain. The Yazidi community has also trickled back to Sinjar, where they are primarily based. But a lot of people remain trapped either in the Kurdish areas, Kurdistan, or in other places because the security is not there. We're spending tens of millions of dollars in aid to help rebuild. And to the credit of the Trump administration, we shifted significant amounts of funds from multilateral institutions into specific help for the religious minorities, Christians, Yazidis, as well as certain Islamic Muslim minority populations that are there. This is very, very important to try to restabilize and give rightful return a possibility for people who are parked nearby awaiting. If we don't do this, militias will fill the area. Iran has great interest in building a land bridge through that area. They are already underwriting militias in that area. There will be outward pressure, more outward pressure for migration, particularly to Europe, but also to the United States. And Iraq will forever lose this important principle of pluralism. What's at stake here is the idea of human dignity, that we all have a sacred space of conscience from which flows our desire to express our religious traditions in various ways. If there isn't justice around protecting people's desire to do this, then Iraq will simply divert back to tribal and ethnic allegiance, and you'll lose this chance for healthy pluralism, that space for human dignity that's so critical for justice. So this is not only essential for beleaguered peoples who have been benefiting from our aid, but who we need to help one more time with a new security footprint. And all we're asking is for an international training mission, a counterterrorism mission that integrates Christians and Yazidis and certain Muslim minority populations into the Iraqi security forces. And by the way, the people who ISIS killed the most, there was a genocide against Christians and Yazidis, but the killed the most were innocent Muslims.
Okay, right. Well, the president has tweeted, he tweeted today about taking nearly 2,000 ISIS prisoners in Syria. Of course, he's made defeating ISIS a top promise that he is making. That's a big promise coming from the White House. But what help could you get from the president on this? Have you been able to work with the White House at all on this?
Last summer, Vice President Pence actually requested that I go to northern Iraq along with the Sam Brownback, our Ambassador for International Religious Freedom, and Mark Green, the Administrator for the United States Agency for International Development, to evaluate the circumstances there. I came away with 3 words. It's possible. It's possible we can help recreate the conditions in which the religious minorities can return to their ancient homelands and once again be a part of this thriving fabric that used to exist in Iraq of pluralism. But secondly, it's urgent. If there is not this opportunity right now, again, outward pressure for migration will continue to occur, and there will be backfilling of the security situation by militias. Third, it all depends upon security. By integrating religious minorities who are Iraqis, who want to return to their homeland. Interestingly, on your report prior to this, we were talking about all the problems with immigration and mass migration and illegal activity and convoys and caravans. These are people who want to reclaim their ancient homelands and once again be a part of Iraq's social fabric. If we can create the circumstances in which they are secure, in which they are fully integrated into Iraqi security forces through a multinational effort, I think there is a possibility here for the reintegration of these communities. This is why I'm pushing so hard on this bipartisan resolution to lay down a marker. This is imminently doable. I understand we have given so much and lost so much in Iraq. It's hard to understand why we ought to be doing any more. But there's one more thing we have to do, and it's pursue justice for these people, help Iraq possibly achieve a chance for peace through a healthy form of nationalism that respects human dignity and the principle of pluralism, and that has huge ramifications for the 21st century architecture of diplomatic relations between nations if we're ever going to find peace in the world.
All right. Well, your state of Nebraska houses one of the biggest populations of Yazidi refugees. Of course, all of them wondering what may happen to any loved ones they still have in cities like Mosul and others around northern Iraq. Congressman Fortenberry, we appreciate your time, sir.
Pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much.
All right. Now, Democrat congressional leaders say that they